Hardin Valley is exploding in growth, and in that epicenter of building is a familiar company with East Tennessee roots and a new effort to expand. Since 2015, Clayton Homes has acquired several building companies across the country to expand its brand beyond prefab homes to building what it calls on-site homes. 10 News reporter Mark Salinger joins us to explain. Mark?
John, in East Tennessee, Clayton is already building in 3 subdivisions. I took a closer look at the changing business model driven by a building boom.
When you look out over the hills in Hardin Valley, new homes stand side by side with others still under construction.
There's probably 10 or 15 houses under construction at any time.
For Clayton Homes,
we're on tap to build over 4,000 site-built homes this year.
Hardin Valley,
At the end of the day, you're all building homes for people to live in.
And traditional site-built homes provide an opportunity.
Clayton is the largest manufactured housing company in the country, and we sit now at about 50% market share. So the logical transgression was for us to move into site-built housing.
Mike Rutherford is the president of Clayton Properties Group. In 2016, Clayton acquired Nashville home builder Goodall Homes. They're in the process of building more than 220 homes in the Knoxville area, pushing the Clayton brand in East Tennessee beyond its well-known manufactured houses. The plan is to continue expanding.
We couldn't be more thrilled to be in Hardin Valley, and we would like to find more opportunities in this area.
At the new Hayden Hill neighborhood,
It's the classic home.
around 100 site-built homes dot the hillside. Still, the majority of Clayton's business around the country will come from prefabricated houses.
We'll manufacture over 50,000 homes this year in that business. This business will be a little over 4,000 homes.
Homes that'll change the way East Tennessee looks and lives. Mark Salinger, WBIR 10 News.
And Clayton says many of those materials used to build the manufactured homes are the same as the site-built homes. The main difference is, of course, where they're built. One's in the warehouse, the other is on site. John?
Mark Salinger on the story. Thank you.